Everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Dreamers Game 1 where we are playing Yomi. This is turn 94. Let's jump into things. So, right off the bat, we've empowered ourselves in Earth. Cool, fantastic. We have been attacked by a Defiler of Dreams, which is bad news. Let's see how this goes. The Defiler of Dreams, pretty bad news. Bears, as far as like horrors go. They can be very tough, but they don't have anything like a Soul Slayer or anything like that. So, as long as they don't somehow one-shot us, we should be okay here. Blit! We're okay there. Nice. Okay, so, one win versus horrors. Boom. Kind of... I feel weird counting that as a win, but it be what it is. Next up, we have incredibly disturbing news compiled on more incredibly disturbing news. But Ubar has claimed the Throne of Knowledge. So Ubar, Throne of Knowledge, boom. Okay, okay. That's bad news. That's real bad news. We talked about, I think it was 6 or so turns back, how Ubar claiming that 4th throne was really, really bad news. Well, this is kind of the culmination of that bad news. So, we can go ahead and move on down the list here. And we've got a couple of attacks. We can see they're from a new flag. That's an Ubar flag. A flag, an Ubar flag that we have a non-aggression pact with. Oy-yi-yi-yi. Let's do this real quick. We have some blood hunting, 35 blood slaves. Boom. Gotcha. Very nice. Might be useful in the coming turns. Probably not. And then let's take a look at what's going on here in Feral Woods. So this is a magic phase attack, right? That's why it comes before the blood hunting. So, all right. Okay. Gotcha. A brief reminder of what we have in Feral Woods. Feral Woods is that throne that we were taking from Helheim. It's just a sieging force of corpse constructs here, etc., etc. And this is this does not look like a very large squad from Ubar here, but it is a very well put together squad. So, let's look at some of the components here. We've got a Hangodrot out front with a Skull Staff, a couple of Blood Slaves, a Percival the Pocket Knight, which is always cool. I like this guy. He's pretty neat. We've got a fair mix of Eagles, Elementals, Shaitans, Bindmen, fucking etc, etc. So these Shaitans, there are a crap ton of them, right? These are all commanders. These are not units. These are all commanders. So, things to know about them. They have very high siege strength because they are flyers. Throw in Great Eagles. Enormous siege strength, right? This is a one-turn fort crack for something like a 250. So, this is absolutely going to obliterate this without any questions. Whole bunch of mist forming, whole bunch of phoenix powers, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of like pillars coming down. Here we go, pillars of fire. Well, actually, almost everything dies before the pillars of fire even get there, which is funny. So, yeah, that stuff gets obliterated. Maybe they'll do some friendly fire to themselves, but probably not. We're gonna go through this in more depth here in a second, but suffice to say, this is a very bad news bearer scenario. And then we were sending our gnome spirit in here to reinforce, so that's gonna bump here. Poor little guy. He might be able to make some trouble, but he's not gonna affect this well. So comes in and punches. Okay, kills that great eagle. Just jumped. Might kill some imps, but you know they're free spawn imps, whatever. There's so many lifelong protections in this. So many. We did get them to use gems. Howl, Light of the Northern Star. For amount of other little things going on. But he's got Shaitans on. Yeah. Got hit with, looks like, some Incinerate as the Shaitans got closer. And that's a pop. Okay. That's going to warrant a whole bunch of conversation here in just a few, but let's go ahead and see what happens in God's Tomb Mountains with Ermor. Okay, so we've got our force here. Bunch of Onis, bunch of trolls, etc., etc. Couple of sprites. The last hurrah of Ermor. Everything's basically just running at us. All our stuff goes up. All our stuff goes up. All our stuff comes down. And yeah. So we've got, 20 protection, regeneration, life after death, I believe. So a second chance of survival. We've got a relief up to avoid fatiguing out. And really this scenario is just a slow-ish kind of kill situation because a lot of our stuff doesn't have magic weapons. That's it. 34 Ko-Onis dead, 4 sprites, 1 troll guard, 40 lost. Very, very acceptable scenario. That's it. That is the end of Ermor. So nation vanquished. All right, so for this turn we have 1 win versus Ermor, 0 losses. We have versus Ubar, 0 wins and 2 losses. And the nation of Ermor has been vanquished. Nation defeated. Boom, right there. Okay. The entirety of the rest of what we're going to talk about is going to be centered around this Ubar stuff. So let's go through all the events and rituals and blah, 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 and everything that we're doing. All that other stuff, let's just knock that out ASAP. So, events, we're just going to go down the list. Got some unrest and misfortune, more unrest, some curses, in God's tomb, no less. So, oof, that's not great. Rebirth, 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 rebirth. The lake has grown still in Brightwoods, which is sad. Children are disappearing into the night in Delca. We gained a fortification in the chambers underneath, which is kind of cool. And then in Silverwall, we had an explosion in our lab. So, chambers underneath is actually right next to Feral Woods, which is kind of funny. So we've got that going on. So events this turn, really the only reportable thing is we gained a fortress. Cool. So, aside from that, we are doing a couple things. We are building temples in... Okay, so buildings, 2 temples. Jot that down real quick. We're building a temple in Chambers Underneath and in God's Tomb Mountains. And then we have some rituals. Rituals we have are 8 corpse constructions, 1 fairy court, and 2 ghost generals. So I'm just gonna jot that all down. And there's the reason why I'm kind of flitting through all this stuff very quickly is to talk about is basically to culminate and say none of this matters. the game is over, right? This is the end of the game. We'll have what? Next turn, Ubar will attack this province or storm the fort of the province, take it, and then issue the command to claim the throne. So 96 will be the last turn. Unless Lanka or Relay or Helheim are on a throne and can take the throne back, take whatever throne they are on, basically in this turn, the next turn, right? Because we cannot prevent this. I have looked through all of the different stuff, thought about cloud trapezing everything that we have access to, gatewaying everything that we have access to, teleporting everything that we have access to. We unfortunately don't have access to Stygian paths. If we had access to Stygian paths, that would be a different situation. We are only Thaumaturgy 6. We do not have access to Stygian paths. Probably that in and of itself is indicative of a scenario of, like, if we had gone Thaumaturgy instead of Evocation, then maybe that would have mattered. But this all culminates in the concept of, up against what is in Feral Woods, and we'll double check, or we'll take a second look at this stuff. What is here, we cannot beat. We cannot beat with what we have access in the area, and we have to beat it this turn, or else. So since we cannot, the game is over. And I've kind of corroborated this with the other players at this point. I've announced, hey, Ubar's on the last throne, and I think the game is just done. Period. Right? Like, I think the general consensus has been, Helheim knows that they lost back when they, failed their own throne rush. They know that they have been on the slow degradation ever since. I guess Lanka maybe knows that they have been playing second fiddle to Ubar for a while now, considering it was Helheim beating Lanka and then Lanka needing Ubar to come back in, right, to defeat Helheim. And then, I've just been off in my own little world. I'm a second-class nation, right? Walking around, and I've been fighting other second-class nations. None of my endeavors or things that I've been doing have been really involved in the greater politics of the world and really, like, where the game is going to end up and who's going to win. Me fighting against Hinnom was not a world problem. Me fighting against Urmor was not a world problem until Urmor started to, Armageddon and everything. So the general consensus that I've got from, the limited conversations that have happened have basically been, yep, Ubar's about to win. In the kind of concept of, like, I think people are, this is a 94 turn game at this point. I think people are ready for someone to win and happy for it to be Ubar. I think there may be some attempts to try to prevent Ubar from doing this, but I don't know if it's a combination of people just thinking that they can't, or knowing that they can't, like in my case, right? Knowing that we're not going to be able to win, or if it's a scenario of people are just like, I don't care at this point, right? And I think, honestly, at a 94 turn game, in a game like this, either way is relatively fair, truth be told. So, we're gonna jump in and show off, what is going on here with all of these guys, right? Like, he's got so many units here, right? So many commanders here. most of them, these Shaitans, a Lich, a Mound King, a Shaman. Get them. Oh, no, I'm the Mound King. Get out of here. So all of these got here. This was a massive endeavor of gems, by the way. All of these got here via either Stygian paths, gateway, teleportation, or cloud trapeze, right? So that's very neat. Let's just take a look at what's going on. We've seen this Hangadrot over here has a skull staff. This is the general kit that we've seen a lot of Ubar, right? The Ring of Returning, Lifelong Protection, Ring of Returning, Lifelong Protection, Ring of Returning, Lifelong Protection. No Ring of Returning on this one, or Lifelong Protection, I think, right? But he has a Bottle of Living Water, Ring of Returning, Lifelong Protection. Same. Dear Lord Jesus, there's so much blood here. This guy is another Skull Staff, High Death, Stygian Path user. Ring of Returning, Lifelong Protection, Ring of Returning, Lifelong Protection, Bottle of Living Water, and Acorns. Bottle of Living Water, right? So the Acorns are the Vine Men, and the Bottles of Living Water are the Ice Elementals. Lifelong Protection, Bottle of Living Water, switching that one up. Bottle of Living Water, Acorns. Got a Dusk Dagger in here. That's a very nice inclusion. Just to try to, like, bleed things out. We've got some Moon Blades, right? We'll save Big Boy for last. Got a Rune Smasher over here on this Cynocephalian Shaman. Bunch of gems, right? Very interested to see what's going on there. That guy just has acorns, actually. Smashing. Is that a great sword of sharpness? It is. Axe of or Flesh Eater. Ooh, Flesh Eater's in here. Scary. Got another Hangadrot back here. More death. We've got a Shaman back here. Enough to teleport in, and then enough to do a whole bunch of, like, probably things like mass protection or mass regeneration, that type of stuff. Serpent Chris, throwing in a little poison in here. Moonblades, Gate Cleaver, very cool. So there is a crazy. Don't forget, we're gonna get this guy. There's a crazy mix on all these Shaitans. Most of them, if not all of them, have a lifelong protection, a living water, or an acorn, right? Which is generating all of this stuff. Now, that stuff doesn't matter for sieging or anything like that, but he doesn't need to worry about sieging. Just having a handful of these Great Eagles, right? These 5, 6, 7 Great Eagles is over or right at about 100 siege strength on its own. And then every single one of these Shaitans is... Oh, nope, that's a Gate Cleaver. Don't look at him. Is nearly 6. And then the handful of Gate Cleavers that we've seen here or there, right? That's 55 per. So, there's a shit ton of siege strength in here. Probably sitting at around 300 or so, give or take. With the couple of Gate Cleavers, the Eagles, the high base siege strength, 300 to 350, somewhere in there probably. And then we have this guy, right? Like very high fire, wind. He's got Ascetic's armor, which is neat, right? Probably not gonna route. And he's just generally very cool. And he is. This isn't his pretender. No. Do we have clear sights on who the... We do not. Don't have clear understanding on who the H3 is, right? But There's absolutely an H3. Most likely, the H3 isn't actually in this battle. The H3 is stealthing into the province or something like that, right? That's the safest way to do something like that. But either way, doesn't really matter. So, my God, this is crazy. This is a massive commitment. Anyways, what are we doing, right? This is the, to my understanding, we absolutely cannot beat this. What could we throw? What could we throw at this if we decided to, right? We have a very few options in the immediate area, right? We could throw Manabu, our prophet. He is a decked out Dione. We could throw an Onishugo over there. We have another Onishugo who can't make it, so fine. Most of the forces over here can't make it. Can't do anything about that. They just can't make it, is what it is. Most of the forces down in God's Tomb cannot make it in a single turn. Right? We are sending a fair amount of those forces northward. Some of them will be able to make it next turn. Not all of them, not the bulk of the forces, right? Most of the chaff that we have is not going to make it there in 3 turns, much less next turn or the turn after, right? We could do things like cloud trapeze stuff in. I guess this is technically a forest. Can we do forest stuff? Is that something that I missed? Could we do... was that also high thumb? Or am I thinking, is that D? Fairy Trod? That's what I'm thinking, isn't it? Into a magic forest. Both the source and the destination must be forests. Oh, that's part of the problem. We're not in a forest. We don't have anything in a forest. I was sitting here thinking, did we miss Fairy Trod? No, we didn't miss Fairy Trod. The destination is a forest, but we don't have anything that is in a forest that could get there in time for it to matter. That actually could, like, cast things. I guess we could send a shaman. Actually, no, we couldn't. We couldn't get him up. Not in time. So, we just do not have the capabilities. We could send a number of Diones in. We could cloud trapeze. Actually, we couldn't get most of these Diones up to Feral Woods in this. We could send 1 or 2 Diones in. We could cloud trapeze some Fairy Queens in. We could teleport some golems in, right? We could... Do I have that? Is that a different game? That's a different game. I'm sitting here thinking, do we have the horror harmonica? No, that's a different game. So we could teleport in some golems, etc., etc. None of that is gonna work. None of that is going to beat. I've even tried testing some of the stuff in very basic kind of concepts. The stuff that we can throw in there doesn't beat like 15 Shaitans with a half of what they've got on, right? We're just caught out of position. And that sometimes that do be that way, right? Sometimes that's the part of the game. And yeah. So, want to, because I want to address this, and I want to address it in a very particular way, because I don't want people saying things or starting things or getting into it. Ubar and I have a non-aggression pact, right? On this is an obvious violation of that non-aggression pact. I don't care in any way, shape, form, or fashion that this is a violation of the non-aggression pact. For one thing, Ubar, to my knowledge, can't see this province, right? Ubar has told me that they did not know that I was on the province, that they were basically just teleporting all of their stuff on there, because, you know, I mean, Helheim still controls this, right? So Ubar did not know. A lot of people will be like, that doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. I don't care. I'm perfectly fine with it. Because the aside is at this point in the game, when there are these few players left, I think a non-aggression pact is kind of worthless and pointless, right? Obviously, we are going to have to fight at some point. A non-aggression pact is just a paper shield saying, hey, you can't surprise attack me. The problem with that type of scenario is that it leads to situations like Tetragrammaton, where you play a game for 180 turns because you end up stalemating each other, and it just is what it is, right? Not that I think we were going to stalemate each other. I think Ubar has been way ahead of me for a very long time and is, you know, very prepared to bowl me over should things come to pass, much like this situation. But that being said, like, I am not miffed about this. I am actually very happy about it. The alternative was, and I was starting to get kind of like anxious about it, is what's going to happen. We just finished off Ermor. I've been talking about this for several turns. What's going to happen? What's next with Lanka, Ubar, etc., etc. So, one, I do not feel like this was intentional, right? I do not feel like the Ubar player was intentionally violating our non-aggression pact. And two, even if they were, at this point in the game, I'm kind of like, yeah, you probably should, right? Because the alternative at this point in the game is to let the game drag on longer than it needs to, right? If I was notified this turn by Ubar, hey, our non-aggression pact's over, right? I would immediately be running to Barrow Woods, and I would probably have a decent-sized stack there ready to defend it. Same for Pistena, right? And that could just lead to an elongated game. Not that I'm going to suddenly win, but it's just going to make Ubar take longer to win, right? If I was in any position to really defeat or resist Ubar, then I would already have taken Feral Woods, I would already have its defenses shored up, etc., etc. I not only condone this, I'm very happy about this happening. One, because this game was starting to get long in the tooth. So, what are we doing in response then? Well, the game's over, so we're just gonna have some fun, right? I am going to move as much as I can into position around Feral Woods, and then we will attack it next turn. It's not going to be a lot. I do not think we are going to be able to do anything about it if he even decides to, like, I don't know, try to repel my attack or anything like that. He could just sit on his fortress and not worry about it, or sit in his fortress and not worry about it. And then the same thing over here in Light Hills, right? Like, I'm just clustering up a whole bunch of the stuff that we have in the area, and we're just gonna kind of like try to do a final big battle, just to have some fun. The flip side is that if I am incorrect, which I don't believe I am, I'm 99.9% sure that this game is over, right? If I am incorrect, and by some miracle, Helheim is actually taking a throne this turn, or Lanka is taking a throne this turn, or Relay is taking a throne this turn, then these are potentially attacks that we could utilize to try to take more thrones away from Ubar, etc., etc. That being said, I don't think these attacks are going to succeed, period, because truth be told, I have not really prepared well to fight against a solid resistance from Ubar. and I think he just beats me in the field at this point in the game, right? So let's talk about this. Here is what Yomi has access to. Right, we have Dionies. Cool, great, fantastic. They're super expensive. They are slow to recruit, cap only. Great, fantastic. Then we have Onishugos, also very expensive. Might as well be slow to recruit because our forts only provide 1 recruitment point. And then they're just Death 2s, right? That's basically our arsenal. Let's go on over to Ubar real quick. Where's he at? Yata. That's not the right thing. Yata. I always get the freaking dark flags. Shit, I hate that. We can't actually see his stuff. Cause his stuff is his stuff is hidden by. Can we see them in here? No. Here we go. Okay, so we have Ifrit Sultans, right? Which are even more expensive and slower to recruit than our Dione, right? But they're also stupid god tier units, right? They are insanely strong, insanely high level casters. One of the most absurd chassis in the game. Built-in fire shield, built-in unseen, built-in flying, built-in ethereal, built-in firepower, storm immunity, magic power, spirit sight. These things are absolutely crazy, and they should be for what you're paying for them and how long it takes to get them. Right? One of these is on the field, and then these are kind of like the bread and butter. These are very expensive units, but these are incredibly good units. He has like 26 of these in the field at Feral Woods, right? Just in the field at Feral Woods, right? Not to say anything else anywhere else. Ubar does not suffer the economic penalties that Yomi does, right? So he has an actual economy, right? He can actually afford to buy these things. He's probably got a two dozen or more in and around the Light Hills area able to defend. Okay? So what we're looking at in that situation is a unit or a nation, late game nation, right, that has a unit that is wholly superior to anything that we have to offer. If you put 20, what are we talking about gold-wise, right? If you put 20 Onishugos up against 10 Shaitans, the 10 Shaitans would obliterate the Onishugos almost instantaneously, right? They would obliterate the Onishugos before the Onishugos really got to do anything, because they'd start hitting them with things like pillars of fire or shit like that, right? Thunder strikes. So you'd have to have Onishugos that were specifically built resistance-wise to prevent the Shaitans from killing them, whereas in that same moment you can have these Shaitans built to kill thugs, right? Built with, defense gear or high protection gear or thug killing weapons, which is what we see. I got stuff flying around in my face, which is what we see with the host of Shaitans in Feral Woods, right? So we have a bunch of lifelong protections, which are chaff generators, which are gonna fuck with your scripts, interrupt your scripts, right? Prevent your opponent from, actually progressing and trying to do anything against you. Leaves you sitting ducks for your spells, etc. And even in the scenarios where you do send in people to try to kill them with things like gate cleavers or moon blades or dust daggers or stuff like that, stars of thraldom, you're still in a situation where that opponent is chaffed up, right? And obviously, right, we can talk about the concept of like, okay, well, alternatively, you could be chaffing them up yourself, right, with your own lifelong protections. Except, it's not super easy to break Yomi into blood. I could have focused on it harder, absolutely could have focused on it harder earlier on in the game. And we would have way more blood at this point, but never to the point to where we're gonna match someone like Ubar, I think. The point that I'm trying to make is that Ubar is designed in such a way that I think they are a very good late game nation, and I don't really think that Yomi is. People are going to argue with me. People are going to say otherwise. People are going to say, well, you could have done X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And those people are probably right, right? Again, at the end of the day, I am not an expert when it comes to Dominions. I've played a fair amount. I know a fair amount, but that's doesn't mean I'm good at the game, necessarily. But in my opinion, where we are at with Yomi right now, and what our capabilities are, we cannot hold a candle to Ubar in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That's not to say that where we started the game and where we ended the game, that's not to say that that could have been different. I could have done things differently. I could have done things better. I could have prepared for certain situations. Even in the last 10 turns, I could have prepared better to try to prevent this from happening. And I didn't. So that's on me, you know, is what it is. But at the end of the day, this game is done. We're going to lose. Ubar is absolutely going to win this. So we're going to just try to have a couple of fun battles at the end to see what we can accomplish and go from there. So that is going to be the end of this video. If you're watching, thanks for watching. We'll be back next turn with some, probably not a lot actually next turn. But the turn after that will be a couple of little fun battles and the end of the game. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.